Ne 1 gigabyte ya Sara. Varukutonga jaja.
Right. Welcome to Champions, and in collaboration with NWG Global TV. Good morning for those watching us in the United Kingdom and Europe, and good afternoon to those joining us from Zimbabwe and across the region, and it may be evening in other parts of the world. I welcome you to NDWG Global TV, and I am your host, Nija. Today, we reflect on the just ended consultation in Zimbabwe about Amendment Bill number 3, a process that a lot of people have shown intense concern across the country. So the question that we have to ask ourselves, was this a genuine platform for citizens to air their views, or it was just a predetermined exercise to justify a means to an end? Joining us today is Dr. Uraya Izembe, a political leader, a founding member of the National Democratic Working Group, a president of Democratic Party in his own right. He participated in a lot of civic initiatives in Zimbabwe, including the National Constitutional Assembly, and someone who has been closely following the developments that has been happening on the ground. Dr. Zembe, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Chair. Greetings to everyone here on board. Thank you for this program, so that we can debate the current affairs, constitutional and political issues in our country. I would like to welcome everybody who is listening to this discussion. Thank you, Chairman Misha, for that introduction.
Thank you very much. For those watching our program, we encourage you to ask questions, because it is when questions are being answered that people take understanding, and they can also see the perspectives. It's all about questions, and also share your views, because you might have views that differ from us, and share this broadcast with your friends, relatives, so that it can go across the continent. Dr. Zembe, the consultation process is just ended. We have seen what happened in Harare. We saw what happened in Bulawayo, Masingo, across the country. From your perspective, as someone who is on the ground, what exactly has just taken place? What exactly has just taken place in this process? Let's get your views.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. What we have observed during the past week, in the name of consultation of the Constitution Amendment Bill number 3 on course in Zimbabwe, is actually episodes of violence being displayed. That is what we witnessed. It's a misnomer to call them consultations. As our headline states, is it consultations or confirmations? I would put it that definitely these were not consultations. Definitely these were not even confirmations, but a display of violent episodes done by an institution which should be central to the governance of Zimbabwe, called a parliament. And that process has shown us that there was violence at display, there was anarchy at display, there was a high level of disorganization at display. You would never get such a thing in any orderly governance institution called a parliament, because a parliament is supposed to be an assemblage of the people's voice. And any process that is done, administered by a central institution called the parliament, is supposed to be a high-level display of seriousness of the business of involving the people, the public, the citizens of Zimbabwe. So, really, what we saw at the National Sports Center in Harare, in Bulawayo, in Chitungwiza, in Vungu, in the Midlands, in Mutare, in Mutoko, in Chinoi, where, as I have indicated, episodes of violence, high-level violence. And this shows that Zimbabwe does not yet have institutions of governance that exist in terms of the people's power. We have had this violence since 1890, when our land was invaded by Cecil John Rhodes and the Pioneer Column. And ever since, there's been an establishment of governance that was based on violence, institutionalized in the organs of state in colonial Rhodesia. And because those institutions of governance prevented the majority from taking part in establishing what you call a government, through consultations, through hearing the people's views, through hearing the people's wish, by holding democratic elections. As you do know, that such processes were being prohibited in Rhodesia. This is what led to a civil war in this country. And for 14 years, that war was fought to establish, among other things, a system of government driven by the people's power, the people's will, the people's decisions in elections, where public leaders would be openly elected in competitive, democratic, constitutional elections. So the armed struggle, which was fought for 14 years in this country, leading to the Lancaster House Conference, was aimed at creating a civilian system of government where Zimbabweans would be held in an election to appoint and elect public leaders, public officials, to constitute a civilian government. And so what we have seen is that even the violence we have seen defy the intentions of the 2013 constitutional write-up, which came about as a result of the people's actions, but that COPAC process was hijacked by Robert Gabriel Mugabe's executive presidents and his political party, ZANU-PF. The episodes we have seen of violence are exactly the same as we saw under the COPAC process. If you did not belong to ZANU-PF political party, to MDC Tsvangirai political party, to MDC Mtambara political party. These were the three political parties that consummated the global political agreement, which led to the establishment of the so-called Government of National Unity through the 19th Amendment to the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Lancaster House Colonial Constitution of Zimbabwe. The 19th Amendment established the so-called Government of National Unity or Inclusive Government, which had Mugabe as Executive President, Morgan Tsvangirai Prime Minister, and Arthur Mtambara, Professor Mtambara as Deputy Prime Minister, together with Madam Kupe. This is the parliament that established or appointed the COPAC process, which began the consultations that were as violent as we saw last week. It's well codified. For another, we can have a session of analyzing the violence that characterized the COPAC process, which took place over a time period of about 5 years, leading to the Constitution of Zimbabwe Amendment number 20 Act of 2013. This is the document that has been used for the past 13 years in this country. And the situation is worse than we had in 2013, which means there is a greater need for this nation to move towards the establishment of a truly people's-driven constitution, which will enshrine the power of the people, establishing organs of government that would serve the people, that would be professional, a professional executive, a professional judiciary, and a professional legislature, so that you would have even the issues of establishing security organs of state like the police. Why last week did Parliament not have the law and order enforcers, the police, to ensure orderly conduct of business in those meetings? It is because ZANU-PF and their leader Emmerson Damzo Mnangagwa have hijacked all institutions of government in this country. And they did what they wanted by actually displaying violence against the citizens of this country, preventing them from talking and expressing their views about the Constitution Amendment Bill number 3 of 2026, so that Zimbabweans would not be able to express their views. This is what I would call dictatorship at its play, at the highest level. Now, what I am seeing is that already we are in a political upheaval where the citizens have rejected Mnangagwa's 2030 Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 of 2026. It has been rejected, which means that its foundation has also been rejected. And therefore, the people of Zimbabwe are continuing with the electoral constitution and constitutional struggle, so that there will be a people's order in Zimbabwe. And
let me hold you on there. And you have said consultations were a display of violence, and the process is take the order that the 2013 COPAC-driven constitutional amendment took place. But we have got other people who are saying we are of the defender, we are the defend the Constitution Assembly. If you say the process of 2013 was flawed, which constitution then will be the people defending? And if this bill passes, as we have heard the Minister of Justice said the process was free and fair in his address, and also Parliament has also said the process was free and fair and people expressed their views. And in that context, what will be the next move from the perspective of the National Democratic Working Group?
Yes, thank you for the questions, Chairman Misha. Firstly, you asked that there are people in this country who belong to groups that call themselves defenders of the Constitution. And so which Constitution are they defending? Now, the question is, currently, because we have a conflict with the dictators on one side and the people on the other side, we are in search of a definition of what a constitution is, or what a constitution, a people-driven constitution is supposed to be. The 2013 Constitution clearly was not authored by the people. It was not a people-driven constitution. It was clearly three political parties driven, go to the global political agreement, and it was parliamentary driven, go to the appointment of COPAC, and it was President Robert Mugabe's executive government driven. You can go to the agents of government. The 2013 Constitution, you can actually identify Robert Mugabe's clause where he even suspended the operation of the running mates for 10 years. That clause would not be implemented because Mugabe did not want to have a running mate in a presidential election. And because Mugabe did not want that, that clause which was in the 2013 constitutional write-up was suspended its operations for 10 years, from 2013 to 2023. And before the 2023 elections, Emerson Mnangagwa made sure that even that provision would not be operative. He removed it from the statutes because, like Mugabe, Mnangagwa didn't also want a running mate in the 2023 elections. This is a grand demonstration that the 2013 Constitution, Amendment number 20, did not come from the people and it did not represent the people's power. It was simply a document that represented Robert Gabriel Mugabe's interests and that of ZANU-PF, because the section on succession itself, again, is another indication that in the event of Mugabe's ouster or Mugabe's retirement or his designation or his death, a person from the political party from which Mugabe came would succeed. So when Mugabe was overthrown in 2017, ZANU-PF provided the successor in the name of Emerson Damzo Mnangagwa, and they sneaked in akapfekera because that 2013 document had a provision to without calling for a national election, but a continuation of a president nominated by ZANU-PF political party. So I was answering your question, Chairman, to say that, so which constitution are the defenders defending? They have to answer for themselves. But what I suspect is that they mean the people-driven constitution idea is the one that is now being defended against Emerson Damzo Mnangagwa's dictatorship. I was answering the first question. So here is that the people-driven constitution is not yet in place. That is what is being defended. In other words, the right of Zimbabweans to author their constitution in complete freedom, thereby making a declaration of the true independence from British colonial rule. And so the journey continues to search for a people-driven democratic constitution. And I am sure that that is the constitution that I am defending. As a citizen of this country, the constitution I wish to see in place is still in my mind, in my brain, and in my heart. Because ever since 1980, there has not been an opportunity for me, I was a grown-up, to author my constitution together with others. You, Chairman Misha included, and all the listeners here included, as citizens of Zimbabwe. That opportunity is coming. That opportunity is what we are defending. That is our people-driven democratic constitution. The right to have it and to have a declaration of a self-independent Republican state of Zimbabwe is what we are defending for the past 136 years of violence. So that is the first part of the question. Chairman Misha and the listeners, bear with me. These are high-level issues about the governance and management of our country. So it takes a little bit of time to explain. Your second part of the question, I need to be reminded by you because I'm not clear since I have just delivered to the first part of the question.
I think we have touched all the aspects of the question that I asked. I think my next question that I wanted just to, and we have already mentioned that people have not been engaged. In the first place, it was not a people-driven constitution. But what we are going to talk about next is you are part of the National Democratic Working Group. And I think on Wednesday, because of the violence that has been taking place in Bulawayo, in Harare, they took a position with other progressive groups that they are disengaging from the consultative process, citing concern that it is not fair and appears predetermined. And Dr. Zembe, as the founding member of the National Democratic Working Group, why did the NDWG took this position? And if they have taken this in mid process, why didn't they take it before it started?
Yes, thank you. It's a good question. The disengagement question, and a rider to say the NDWG, why had it not disengaged earlier than the full display of violence? Yes, the NDWG was founded on 3 March in 2024, and we have been consulting the citizens on what to do for the past 2 years. The engagement with the violent episodes, we got to know that they were violent episodes after effect. But when the parliament called after the bill was gazetted, there was a call by parliament to the citizens of Zimbabwe to show cause, to debate among themselves, and to participate in the so-called consultative process by the parliament itself. And because of our civic engagement as the National Democratic Working Group, our members as citizens participated so that they could air their views against or about the Constitution Amendment number 3 bill. So it was with good intent in a civilian process, a peaceful process. The people believed that really there is need to speak about such a fundamental development affecting their governance. And therefore they participated only to discover the violence meted out through the bogus parliamentary process of consultation by Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF. So the disengagement is simply to pull out from an invitation to engage in violence a day before the completion of these violent episodes. Yes, the National Democratic Working Group announced to the nation, the whole world, that we were pulling out from the invitation to engage in further violence, which we had seen. And the citizens had been brutalized, and therefore that disengagement did not mean allowing dictatorship to run rampant in Zimbabwe. No. It's simply a question that the dictatorship was exposed by the participation of citizens who had good intentions, but only to discover that the parliament institution was hijacked totally by ZANU-PF thugs and purveyors of violence. Now, the question is, as NDWG, we will continue with the consultative process. Remember that the NDWG was set up to engage Zimbabweans as an inclusive process of discussing, debating about the lives of people, about their governance systems in the country, about the economic plight, about the housing plight, about the unemployment plight, about the human rights violations in Zimbabwe. So the NDWG will continue, and we have gathered evidence that the current Parliament of Zimbabwe does not represent the people of this country, of Zimbabwe. The processes of that parliament have long therefore been captured by Mnangagwa and his ZANU-PF political party. So the NDWG will continue consulting the people and continue to embrace all progressive forces in this country as we move to remove the dictatorship that is currently using the 2013 Constitution right up to protect itself against the people's interest. So this is the job before us as citizens of Zimbabwe. I think I must be very clear there that the last part of your question, Chairman, was why didn't the National Democratic Working Group disengage before witnessing the violence? The NDWG would not have been prophetic to prophesy that the ZANU-PF thugs would unleash their fangs and their dirty violence in a parliamentary process. There's no way NDWG would have had knowledge. NDWG is a research movement. In research, you pursue the problem, you investigate, and you get facts. Now the NDWG investigated and has now a lot of facts about the violent nature of the captured institution called the Parliament of Zimbabwe. As it is, it's captured by the ZANU-PF thugs, and it's now a citadel of violence. Clearly, Mnangagwa should desist from abusing that national institution. However, those citizens who allow themselves to be used by Emmerson Damzo Mnangagwa to oppress this nation, being so-called part of members of parliament, will now begin to take personal responsibility for this dictatorship. Because people are dying in this country. Health institutions are defunct. There's poverty in the country. People are dying of starvation. People can't access medical services in this country. People have no jobs. People are dying because of the drug menace that the ZANU-PF people introduced in this country. So those citizens who occupy positions in the captured institution called Parliament today must take this notice by Zimbabweans seriously. No one should be used through their full knowledge to oppress this country. That Parliament
I think Dr. Zembe's network might be giving him challenges, but we have heard him. He have expressed that the process wasn't democratic, and he has also explained that the reason why the National Democratic Working Group participated in the initial process of the consultation was because it was deemed to be parliament driven, and having been parliament driven, the the understanding was was going to be managed by Parliament, and the people were going to express their views. We will put another schedule, and the next question was going to be around what Minister Ziambe expressed, and I wanted to take his views in terms of what the government is saying and what are the progressive forces are saying. Let's listen to Minister Ziambe.
The people, be it orally or in writing, will then come back to Parliament, sit as a committee, look at all the submissions that they received, and then come up with committee reports. The committee report that they prepared will then be presented in the National Assembly during the second reading speech after I presented the bill. So what will happen between now is, once the 90 days have lapsed, which is the week beginning the 18th of May, I will now be in a position to go and formally introduce the bill in the National Assembly and give a notice of presentation of the bill. Thereafter, I will then give my second reading speech. Basically, the second reading speech is when I formally unpack the bill in the National Assembly, explaining the rationale behind the bill, explaining the clauses, and then after that, I will move that the bill will be read the second time, opening up for debate in the National Assembly. That's when now the committee chairs will then present their committee reports about the consultations that they undertook and the recommendations pursuant to the public consultations.
From the public consultations, the people of Zimbabwe are particularly focused on the issue of introducing a parliamentary method of electing the president. Some who are opposed to the bill have said that particularly the parliamentary method erodes the liberation struggle ethos of one man, one vote. Your take?
We have had an indirect election before. From 1980 to 1990, we didn't have direct presidential elections. So those that are arguing that by having an indirect election, we are eroding the gains of the liberation struggle, we are removing one man, one vote, are totally misplaced. In fact, the authors, those that gave us the idea of voting, in the majority of cases, they do not have a direct presidential election.
In the issue of a referendum, clear that up. Is there a need for a national referendum on this bill?
Let me explain it by saying, in 2013, when we came up with a completely new constitution, we put in safeguards on how the constitution is supposed to be amended. And within that constitution, which we took to the people for a referendum, we were given 3 scenarios where we require a referendum. And the people clearly indicated that don't come to us if you are amending this constitution, if you are not touching these 3. Okay. What you simply need is 2/3 majority. So this amendment does not touch Chapter 4, does not touch Chapter 16, does not touch Section 328.
Justice Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Honorable Ziambe taking us through what are the next steps following the conclusion of the public consultations on the Constitutional Amendment number 3 bill.
Right, that was Minister Ziambe giving his what is going to happen next. According to him, he's going to, after the 90-day, he will present his first reading to Parliament, and then he will then do a second reading in the Parliament. The committees that were doing the consultation will give their reports, and And I think one of the key questions he was asked is the bill seems to erode the reason for the going to the liberation struggle, which was one man, one vote. And Minister Ziambi's response was the fact that we had an indirect election of a president since 1980. But what he didn't mention in that submission was the fact that between 1980 and 1990, we didn't have an executive president. We had a ceremonial president in the person of President Banana, and the executive prime minister was Robert Mugabe. So the president wasn't an executive president, and the prime minister came from the party which had the majority. It was not parliament that elected the executive prime minister. It was only the non-ceremonial president which was selected by parliament. So I think this is one of the things that needs to be explained, and I think Dr. Zembe was going to elaborate on that in his response to. I think I was going to put that question to him today. He is trying to log in, but I think he's having some challenges with the network where he is. I don't know if there are any people with questions on the platforms, those joining us from National Democratic Working Group TV, and those who are joining us from Champion Network TV. Yeah, Dr. Zembe has just come back, and we will be hearing from him in a minute when I bring him onto the platform.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sorry, I ran out of data. I've replenished it now. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
I just want to take you through what I did in your absence.
Yes.
I played the video for Minister Ziambi, who was responding to what happened next, and he explained that the next, after the 90 days, he will do his first reading, and during his second reading, they are going to then the parliamentary committees that went around doing the consultation. They will give their reports, and he was then asked to say, but this seems to take away the fundamental of one man, one vote, which was enshrined in which was one of the key reasons for the liberation struggle. And his response at that time was, even since 1980, we didn't have we had an indirect election of the president. And I think that is one of the things that I wanted you to respond to, say, is he saying the right thing by saying since 1980 in 1980 to 1987 we didn't have we had an indirect election of the president. Did you hear me?
Yes, I heard you.
I don't know
if you want me to answer now.
Yeah, I want you to respond to Dr. Ziambi's assertion that we had if there was a precedent of us having an indirect election of the president.
Yeah, let me respond to that one. Am I audible there? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Ziambi is not telling the truth. In short, he is lying. Because from 1980 to 1990, we did not have an executive presidency government in Zimbabwe. We had a government that had a titular head of state. A titular head of state is the head of state who does not have executive power, but who is a figure, father, so to speak, who did not have the executive authority of a government, but had the authority of the nation, so to speak, as head of state. And that president, if I am to name the occupant, was Kenan Banana. He was a titular head of state. And Kenan Banana, among other things, was therefore the commander-in-chief of the defense forces. And but was not head of government with executive authority to run the affairs of Zimbabwe. We had Robert Gabriel Mugabe, who was the prime minister and the head of government. And so, Ziambi lied that we had an indirect process of electing a president, an executive president. We never had an executive president from 1980 to 1990, just before the 1990 elections. Journalists should take this point to Ziambi as a follow-up. The point I'm raising, because the evidence is there. In 1987, there was a constitutional amendment that established the executive presidency, which was directly elected in 1990 elections. That was the first presidential election in 1990. In 1987, an amendment was made to abolish Banana's titular presidency position by combining it with the prime minister's executive position. So the inaugural direct election of a president was held in 1990 elections. Clearly, Ziambi lied to this nation. How could people have directly elected a non-existent executive president from 1980 to just before 1990 elections? He should find other false reasons, not this one. I have demolished this one. I have submitted evidence is there in the annals of history of governance of this country. So he should not even say that in Africa or in the world, there are many systems where presidents are indirectly elected. What he is saying is not backed by evidence. We are not talking about other nations. We are talking about Zimbabwe as a nation. These ZANU-PF people should respect the sovereignty of the Zimbabwean people. It is the Zimbabwean people who struggled against colonial Rhodesia. It is the Zimbabwean people who struggled against the dictatorial reign of Robert Gabriel Mugabe for 37 years. Now it's the people of Zimbabwe who are struggling against the dictatorship of Emerson Mnangagwa now for 8 years. So the question of referring to other nations is completely out. It's irrelevant. We must look at the interests of Zimbabweans and look at the historical aspects and the needs of Zimbabweans. So we are inviting the ZANU-PF people to a discourse, a debate among Zimbabwean people, not to use the so-called other countries. We are not talking about other countries' lives here. We are talking about the lives of the citizens of Zimbabwe. Let's engage and debate these matters seriously about the governance of Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwean people, and then get solutions from the people. Debate for another day is if Ziambi were to cite a particular country, we can take him on to see the differences that are there. Remember, Emerson Mnangagwa got into office in 2023 through an illegitimate bogus election. However, the other citizens also got into positions as parliamentarians and others as local governance councillors. There was never a mandate president, an executive matter. Never. Where are they getting that from? The only people who should of governance are the citizens of Zimbabwe. And if now they will go through and they have this terrible law that will plunge this country into serious chaos, into serious anarchy. They need to know that at the end of the day, the people of Zimbabwe are going to be victorious. They have been victorious through dictatorial governments and the parliamentary systems and the constitutional systems that were oppressive. They shall be successors. The people shall rule. And the ZANU-PF thugs who are acting in the name of the people shall be vanquished by the popular people democratic power. It is time that they begin to know that they are a very small minority in this country. They are looting the wealth of this country, the wealth of everybody. They now act as they believe hijack this nation, to hold this nation to ransom and lie on behalf of the people is not going to work. We see increasing voices of Zimbabweans objecting to this abuse that is being done by ZANU-PF for the past 46 years now. These ZANU-PF people should awaken and realize that the Zimbabwean people are rising to claim their power in terms of creating their constitution, their elections, and their government structure in order to provide proper management and governance of this country. I hope I've answered your question, Chairman. Thank you.
You have answered it quite clear and even beyond. Now we have been here almost an hour now. We need to be winding down, but I think another program that we are going to do is going to be. You mentioned that 1987. That's when the Constitution was amended to create the executive president, and I think the question we then needed to be asking, and which we need an episode on its own, is: was there a referendum for the people of Zimbabwe to agree to that change in the constitution at that time? And if they didn't request a referendum for such a significant change in the constitution, why are we making it that we need to be involved when they are changing the how we select the president, when we didn't object when they were changing to have an executive president? This is not for answer for today, but it's for another day. For now, I think what we need, there are people who might be watching this program from the diaspora, from Zimbabwe, from across the globe, and particularly, what are you saying to the young people of Zimbabwe? And what are you saying to the middle generation in Zimbabwe? What are you saying to the regional bodies like the SADC, AU, and other progressive forces within the context of our nation? And what message are you sending to Mnangagwa's government and these people as a way forward? If they continue with this consultative process, as the parliament has already said, the process was fair and people's views have been heard, they are just going to put together the reports and hopefully then for them it's a done deal. Over to you, Dr. Zembe. You can unmute your mic. I think I am not able to unmute your mic from here. Go on, Mr. Zembe.
Can I proceed?
Yeah, you can proceed, yes.
To answer your questions.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Yes, very quickly, my message
his network might be having some challenges. It's frozen.
Yes, can I come in?
Yes, you can come in.
Yes, to the young people of Zimbabwe is that they must embrace the historical development of the governance processes so that they have knowledge of what happened, and that as torchbearers of the reconstruction process in terms of governance and the setting the future for this nation, they need to rise and participate in the discussions and in the struggles for establishing a democracy where their voice should be heard through electoral processes so that they would influence the democratic governance processes that should open future opportunities, economic opportunities for them to have a good life in Zimbabwe. They should not be forced to flee, to leave the country into the diaspora. No, they should take this struggle to be theirs. They are the vanguard of the constitutional and electoral struggle that currently occupies the political space in Zimbabwe. And as young people, they should see their power in contributing towards what I should say the constitutional liberation of their country. We need to move to establish a civilian government based on the people's constitutional will. In other words, the establishment of the people's constitution is a prerequisite for a good democratic system of governance in Zimbabwe. So is the message which we are sending also to regional, continental, and international bodies, is that Zimbabweans need to be supported in their struggles excuse me, against dictatorship. The question of democratic rule excuse me, has long been resolved throughout the whole world. The issue of self-rule, self-governance are fundamental principles of even the worldwide body of the United Nations Charter. And this is the orderly way in which governance should be done in all countries. And pacific resolutions of conflicts within the member states of regional bodies, within SADC, within the African continent, and within the United Nations, the pacific settlement of disputes that are done on the basis of reasoning, the power of reasoning, without resort to arms of war, should actually be at the center of national governance. And as we move to establish a new world order in terms of governance philosophy, which the existing UN body has not been able to accomplish, because we can see that there are a lot of negative conflicts, aggression in the whole world by even the members of the Security Council not adhering to the values of pacific settlement of conflicts. Here in Zimbabwe, we have a Dare concept. Dare. Mushausina dare wakafa. Mushai dare. These are the values that we need to characterize our governance philosophy, to say that the people who are concerned must be given a right to speak and to think and to pronounce their thought processes, their ideas, in influencing how they are governed. This is part of the message to Emerson Mnangagwa and his ZANU-PF goons, that they must desist from being violent against their fellow citizens of this country. We have very strong cultural value that we abhor violence. be it physical violence through arms of war, or be it legal violence, like preventing people from accessing their rights, like what the Mnangagwa regime is attempting to do, to put laws that violate the rights of the people. That is legal violence. And so this is our message to Emerson Damzo Mnangagwa, to desist from being purveyors of violence, to desist from continued violation of our fundamental rights, human rights, to think and to make our ideas known of how we should be governed as citizens of Zimbabwe. The methodology of violence has limitations. And if Mnangagwa and the company continue to be violent, and if they continue to be intransigent to this good advice that the nation is giving them, then one, they risk plunging this nation into another violent fiasco, which they will lose, because it is the peaceful power of the majority citizens that will prevail. The people have power to innovate ideas of how to overcome this rule by a minority, the hijacking of public institutions. There is a limitation. The minority cannot continue to perpetuate their rampant genocidal dictatorship. They must give up such devilish intentions and resign, surrender to the people's wisdom, to the people's will, to the people's power. And the people's peaceful power is stronger than all weapons of war that Mnangagwa think they have and can display against the people. We are just giving them this free advice that they must realize that they should not continue to hold this nation hostage. They must not continue to be slave masters in the 21st century. They must never ever think that they can impose dynastic personal rule in this country. We are in the era of enlightenment and in the era of knowledge societies, in the era of competitive political and economic activities. The people of Zimbabwe should be freed to unleash their economic power and ideas to produce goods and services in order to sustain their lives, in order to enjoy their lives. The more than 5 million Zimbabweans in the diaspora are crying to come back home and to add value to economic production, to add value to economic activity, so that they have maximum enjoyment of life under earth. In Zimbabwe lies opportunities. In Zimbabwe lies climate, business climate conducive to attainment of peace and personal enjoyment. Zimbabweans can never have maximum enjoyment in the diaspora. No. So, the Emerson Damzo Mnangagwa should free Zimbabweans The thought processes, they must come back, everybody, to this country, reconstruct your nation, and have good life. We have natural endowments given by our Creator in this country. We have the wealth in this country that will make every citizen of this country very happy and wealthy. That will eradicate all levels of poverty in this country. So Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa and this ZANU-PF cabal should allow this nation to be freely independent and to go about reconstructing their ravaged country, their ravaged economy, their ravaged lives. We have power to regenerate as a nation. And therefore, I hope that Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa and his ZANU-PF thugs will listen to what the Zimbabweans are currently saying. We note, however, that there are progressive movements like the Geza Revolution, which is coming from within and reminding this nation the reason why the nation went to war against colonial regimes in order to gain independence. And that independence is not yet at hand. So the struggle against oppression, dictatorial rule continues. It matters not that we now have Emerson Mnangagwa, a person of our kind, as a black African, as a Zimbabwean, now leading this genocidal dictatorship against his own people. This is an insurrection. So Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa and his ZANU-PF minority group must give up their demonic dictatorial power and surrender to the people's will. Let me end here. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much for such a passionate and emphatic message. As I said, we are coming to close our broadcast. But I think, as I said, this is the beginning, having a conversation with Dr. Uriah Izembe. He's a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of understanding and experience. In the next segment, I think we must also tackle. He made an assertion that the 2013 constitution is not a people-driven constitution. We need people of Zimbabwe to understand why he comes to that position. And also, he mentioned that we said we need to unpack the constitutional amendment that brought about the executive president in 1987, and why was it sent? Was it put to the referendum where people are involved? If not, why? And if it was okay, then why are now people vested interest in the change of the constitution to move from the direct election of the president to him being elected by parliament, which, according to Dr. Zembe today, is by a captured, because the parliament that we have today is not a reflection of people's choice. People's choice were violated by with Shabangu coming in and the recalls and the by-elections and the violence and everything that is in the mix. And this is the concoction that is now we are now entrusting to change the sacred constitution to extend and take away the powers from the military. There are a lot in there. We will have a conversation. But as we come to a close, he made a very fundamental call to every Zimbabwean to say we must be involved. We must learn our history so that we can reconstruct our country. Young people to participate, and so that we can see the actually coming together of a liberated constitution of Zimbabwe, and the regional bodies and international bodies is calling upon you. We need your help. We need your collaboration. We need to take off this the dictatorial body of the so-called the cabal government in Zimbabwe. And his message to the government of Zimbabwe is let the people do what they are supposed to do. So I will not thank you enough, Dr. Zembe, for sharing your insights and your passion, and you can see it through. And as we said, the young people see we are all people with white hair here talking about the future of Zimbabwe. We must be involved. We must see young people having this passionate discussion among themselves about where are we going. And we are here to give you guidance. We are teasing you, are telling you, 1980, it was 1980, we thought we are having one man, one vote, only to realize, no, we are going down with people who are more invested in amassing power, or the constitutional amendment that were done since 1980 until the one that came in at the 20th amendment, which gave us what we are now calling the Constitution, which is Amendment 20. It was all consolidating power, creating one center of power. And so I think we need to be involved. So for today's discussion highlighted a critical tension between the official position that this process was a legitimate and legitimate consultative process, but there were been concern from on the ground, as we have heard from Dr. Zembe, and other sentiments aired on all other social media platforms, that this was more of a violent process. And as Zimbabwe move forward, the key question remains: can we trust, or can a trust be built where there is a doubt in the process? And I think Dr. Zembe has also highlighted that we don't have functional institutions. So if we don't have functional institutions, how do we then navigate to bring about a real change? So this is me from a National Democratic Working Group, Global TV, in conjunction with Champions Network TV. I say good afternoon, those in UK, and good afternoon also those in Zimbabwe, and wherever you are watching us from. What I want to tell you is stay informed, stay engaged, and let your voice matter. And with this, I say good day. Dr.